Sourdough cornbread is a favorite in our home. My favorite all-time sourdough cornbread is using the fermented corn that I made during the summer. Check out the video. I have a full video on how to make this fermented corn. And I also have another video I did just last week on how to dry your corn and your fermented corn. If you mix the fermented corn with the sourdough, that twang of the sourdough and the twang of the fermented corn gives you a very unique cornbread. You can make this sourdough cornbread without using the fermented corn, and I have a recipe for that at the blog. Check that out. And I also have a recipe for sourdough stuffing, all on one blog. Make sure you have your sourdough fed the day before, at least, sitting on the counter. You want it room temperature, as well as the buttermilk and the eggs. The ghee or butter needs to be melted and cooled before you start the process. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Today I'm using my antique chamber stove, and that requires a higher temperature of 400 degrees with the gas on for 15 minutes. Then continues to bake on retained heat. That means the gas is shut off, the door stays closed for about 20 more minutes until the cornbread is baked. If you're using the little cast iron cornbread molds, they will take less time, so you'll need to adjust your oven baking time accordingly. Have all your ingredients, like I have here, pre-measured. I cook in grams, so I use a kitchen scale instead of measuring cups and measuring spoons to measure all the ingredients into bowls. And as you can see, there's not a lot of hooch on top because it's very fresh fermented sourdough. This is in its prime. Had it been 2 days since I fed it, you would see a layer of hooch on top. But irregardless, this was fed yesterday. I'm gonna give it a stir. I placed my bowl that I'm gonna mix all my ingredients in on the scale, and I turn it on. This way it's tiered. I need 226 grams, and it doesn't bother if it's a gram over. It's not gonna hurt it. And I'm gonna keep my scale out because I need to replenish the starter that I just took. To replace what I just took, I'm going to use 62 grams of flour and 120 grams of filtered room temperature water. And give it a stir, let it sit on the counter a day, and if I want, I'll put it in the refrigerator, but during the winter, I store it on my cold enclosed porch. I like to add all my wet ingredients first. So in this, I have the sourdough. For the eggs, I pre-crack them. This ensures they are fresh. And the buttermilk. I have a whole blog how you can make buttermilk 2 ways. One with the culture and one with packets. Check it out. Watch that video. So I'm going to use my Danish wire whisk. Give it a stir. And this is the melted and cooled butter. Now you can add them straight down the list that's on the recipe. It doesn't matter any particular order. And save those eggshells. There are a lot of uses for eggshells, especially when spring and the summer is coming for the garden. Check that out. I'll leave the link up there to the blog on many uses how to use eggshells. For this recipe, I'm going to use half of fermented corn that I dehydrated and half of cornmeal that's already ground that I bought from the store, and that is red meal. So it's 60 grams of regular cornmeal and 60 grams of fermented. I will use this grinder to grind it, and even the little hot peppers are in there. It's perfect. This is a very powerful grinder. Love it. Ray, could you turn that on for just a few seconds? Tap it. Open slowly, maybe cornmeal dust. Perfect. I'm gonna unplug it, safety first. And now we're back to where we're just gonna add our ingredient. I'm gonna add both cornmeals, 2 tablespoons of sugar. I like using sugar in the raw, but you could use organic cane sugar if you want. This is baking soda, baking powder, and salt, and the flour. Today I'm using organic, all-purpose, unbleached flour. Many times I grind it, especially in the winter. Give this a stir. Oh, it smells so good already. Do not want to overmix this. This will be a nice and fluffy, if cornbread could be fluffy. One final stir. See how it's kind of foamy? This is perfect. This is what you want. This is beautiful. And this is my 9-inch cast iron skillet. It's a very old Griswold. The writing is actually coming off. I use it so much. I love this pan. This smells so good. If you're using a regular oven, you would put this at 350 degrees. Some recipes call for 375, 400. I use 350. I rather go low and slow than cooking it fast. I'm gonna put this in my chambers oven, which is already at 400 degrees. But if you're using a regular oven, put it in at 350 Check it anywhere between 25 to 40 minutes. If you really want to be sure, it's about 185 degrees internal temperature. I'm going to bake it for 15 minutes with the gas on. In 15 minutes, I'm going to turn the gas off, leave the door closed, and in 15 more minutes, which will be a total of a half an hour, I'm going to check it. Then it might be 5 to 10 minutes more after that. And there you have it. How beautiful. This was cooked a total of 30 minutes in my chambers oven. I checked the temperature. It's 196 degrees. It's totally done. I'm gonna let this cool. Come back in about 10 minutes, slice it up, slather some homemade butter on it. Yes, I have a video. Check it out in my Food from Scratch playlist. And when I opened my chambers oven, it was at 350 degrees, spot on. So I'm very happy the way this came out. This is the first time cooking my sourdough fermented cornbread in my chambers oven. And it's lunchtime. Got my homemade butter, got my bison chili. Check out that video. You can watch me make it on a wood cook stove. And also, these cast iron dishes were made from Lodge here in Tennessee. I have a video on that too. Check it out when I visited the Foundry. Let's cut in nice and crunchy on the outside. Put some butter on it while it's still warm. So there you have it. Cornbread, chili, homemade butter, made with sourdough and fermented corn. Doesn't get better than that. Oh my, that is very, very good. Nice and tender, completely cooked. Has a very unique flavor. To me, I love ferment, I love twang, I love the sourdough. This is a very moist cornbread. Half of it I'm gonna leave out because we're going to have a smoked turkey breast, and I'm going to let this dry a little bit for a day, and then I'm gonna make sourdough fermented cornbread stuffing. That's also in the recipe at the blog for these other recipes. Make sure you subscribe, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. Most important, share on social media. That really helps me out. And don't forget to check below the video to print out the printable recipe, links to the blog, or if you're on a cell phone, it will look different. Check this out how you do that. And this is Jersey saying have an awesome day.